Hi, I'm Allison, and a few of my friends have asked me recently how to make my grandmother's recipe for pie crust. I sure wish that I could tell you that it was actually my grandmother who taught me how to make her recipe, but it wasn't. It was my Aunt Dee Dee, and I'm so grateful that my Aunt Dee Dee paid attention to her mother's cooking so that she could learn this recipe and pass it along to me. And as far as I know, there's a few other people in our family that still make my grandma's recipe. So, if you would like the recipe, I have a recipe card here and I can send it to you. And these are the ingredients, all the ingredients that it takes. It's flour, Crisco, regular vinegar, salt, 1 egg, and some water. Now, I'm sure you've seen Crisco prepackaged like this before, and it's a lot easier to use this kind of Crisco because it's pre-measured just like a stick of butter. It actually takes 1.5 cups of Crisco and 3 cups of flour. And so I'm going to put that in the bowl right now. Okay, now I put 3 cups of flour and 1.5 cups of Crisco into my bowl. And my method of cooking is I always get out all the ingredients first, and then as I use them, I put them in the cupboard because sometimes I forget if I've added all the spices that's needed. So that's why the Crisco and the flour are gone. Now this little tool, some type of pastry cutter, I don't know, I'm not really that much of a baker, is wonderful and easy to use. And so my son who's filming is going to now show you how to get the Crisco and the flour, how it mixes together with this, like instead of using a spoon. It just really slices right through. I know this has a term, mixing the flour and the Crisco, I don't know what it's called. But you just keep doing it until it's all mixed together. After about 30 seconds, it really is pretty well mixed together so that you don't just have any huge chunk of just Crisco. I really think the less that you mix it, the more light and fluffy the pie crust turns out. Okay, my Aunt Dee Dee told me at this point to make a little well in the middle of the dough to crack the egg into. And that way you can scramble up the egg a little bit before you mix it all together. Okay, and the few other ingredients, and I already measured this to make the video go faster, is 6 tablespoons of water, a tablespoon of vinegar, and a ½ teaspoon of salt. So now I'm just going to stir this together until it is solid enough that I can dump it on the counter. So I would say no more than about 30 seconds. So you can tell now it's really kind of sticking together. So now I don't even measure out the amount of flour. I just put enough flour on the counter so that I can roll out the pie crust. But remember, the more flour that's in it, the more dry the pie crust is going to be. So don't put like 2 cups of flour. I just put a little handful at a time, and then if it gets to be too dry, I'll put out some more. So, and normally I roll out the pie crust a little closer to the sink because then it's a lot easier to clean. But for today, I'm rolling it right here because my son has promised he's going to help clean. So, there's the pie crust. Now, this recipe makes 3 pie crusts, but I normally like to just turn it into 2 because I like to be able to decorate the top or the bottom, and that requires a little more pie crust. So if you have a roller, that's great. If you don't, you could always use a glass or a cup or an old mayonnaise jar. I like to get it kind of clean and kind of floured. Knead just a little bit so that the flaky part really sticks together. And I know that there's no additives or preservatives in this, and so if you're not going to use the pie crust right away, it really needs to go in the refrigerator. And also after you cook your pie, since there's no preservatives and there is an egg, the pies need to be stored in the refrigerator. So after it's just this nice clump, you can separate it into 3 pieces. But like I said, I always separate it into 2. Okay? And then you work with 1 at a time. And again, the less kneading that you have to do, the better. And so after you have it out, just start rolling it out. You can tell it's really flaky. I'm gonna tell you that my Aunt Dee Dee that taught me how to use this actually lays saran wrap on the counter underneath the pie crust and then saran wrap on the top of it. And that way you don't have to use any extra flour like it's apparent that I need to, because it's not sticking together enough. Okay, so it's probably the consistency of Play-Doh about now. And you just roll it to your desired thickness. Some people like a really thick crust. When I make chicken pie, I like to have a really thick crust on the bottom and then a thinner crust on the top. So after you get it, I know it doesn't look that pretty right now, but after you get it to be as thin as you want, then instead of just picking it up and putting it in the pie plate, you need to roll it like this. Very gently with your fingers. Voila, so there's one pie crust. Now, if you have some saran wrap, you can roll it up just like this in saran wrap. If I put saran wrap on the counter, that would have been easy. And then this can go straight in the freezer. Note, if you notice that it gets polka dotted, that's not mold, that's just the Crisco coming out. But you can store these in the freezer just like this. But I'm going to show you now how I get it into a pie shell. Okay, so I got a pie plate out. I don't put any Crisco in the pie plate because there's so much Crisco in the crust. Then you just start on one corner, and then you roll in reverse of the way that you rolled it out. And as you can tell, there's a lot hanging over that can be cut off. If I'm making chicken pie, I put all the chicken pie stuff on, I put the top on, and then I roll it all together so that it's a great pie crust shell. I'm going to clean off the counter and then show you really quick the way that my Aunt Dee Dee would tell you to do it. That is with saran wrap, and you will see the mess I have on the counter will not be there with the saran wrap way. All right, I got a fresh rolling pin. I put saran wrap on the counter. If you can see it, it's a black countertop, so it's kind of hard to see. And another piece on top of the dough. I push it down some first. I don't normally do it this way, so I'm not really good at it. So from here, you roll and roll and roll and roll. Until it's as big as you want. Mine's coming out too oblong. But you get the point. You roll it out. And then when you're done, and this is, I guess, a good way to do it for freezing, when you're done, you just roll it up like this. And then it's ready to go in the freezer, and there's no cleanup on the counter. One last thing, I didn't shape this one yet, I just put it in, but I really like to use shower caps. And so every time Mike or my mom go on business trips, I try to get them to bring me their shower caps back. And so if you're not going to use it right away, or if you already have a pie in it, that's a really easy way to put it in your refrigerator. So if you have any questions, please email me. I hope you don't think this was too corny, but you're the one that asked for how to make my Grandma Brill's pie crust recipe. I hope you'll try it and let me know. Thanks.